Hi there, this is Jeff, and welcome to a playthrough of FTL, Faster Than Light. This is one of my favorite games that's come out in the past year, definitely my favorite, indie game. I've put over 100 hours into it, and I think it's a lot of fun. People have been asking me on Twitter and stuff, oh, how do you play the game? It's really hard. So I thought I would do a quick playthrough on easy mode, because I'm a wimp and that's the only mode I've ever actually beaten it on, but I've gotten pretty good at it on easy, so I thought I would show you how I do it. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to hear the wonderful music and sound effects in the game because of the way Apple computers handle audio right now, but hopefully you won't be missing out on too much. Anyway, let's get started. Here we see our ship. This is a relatively fresh save file I'm using, so I've only got a couple things unlocked. And for this playthrough, we're just going to go with the standard ship layout, the default, the Kestrel. As you can see, it's armed with a missile launcher, the Artemis, and a burst laser 2. You start with 3 crew members, shields, weapons bay, engines, health, etc. All pretty standard. One thing you can do is rename your ship, and the Kestrel is kind of boring, so let's name it something better, like the Butzelal. There we go. That's much classier, I think. We are ready to go, so I'm going to make sure to set the difficulty to easy, because normal is very hard, and let's get started. So, here we have the start of the game. We are floating in space, and our objective is to get to the final sector and defeat the enemy flagship. And along the way, hopefully we will acquire the resources and equipment we need to do so. The first thing I like to do is send my 2 extra crew members over, one to man the engine room and one to man the weapons. The nice thing about having a crew manning the engines is you get a bonus to your evasion rate, which is very important for dodging missiles and lasers and asteroids and things like that. The nice thing about manning the weapons is that it gives you a shorter weapon cooldown time, which is very important because you want to be able to shoot as fast as possible. The next thing I like to do is turn off the med bay for now and put that extra power into the engines. It's generally a good idea not to power any equipment on your ship that you're not using at that time, and since we don't need the med bay yet, there's no reason to waste the power on that, when it could give us a little bit more evasion and a faster FTL charge time. Before I make the first jump, I just want to look over the upgrades menu. As you can see, you can spend scrap, which is the game's currency, to upgrade your ship. You can upgrade your shields, your engines, your oxygen system, your weapons, your health bay, your automatic piloting, your sensors, your doors, and the reactor, which is what powers everything on your ship. You can see our crew. We can have a maximum of 8 crew members. And our equipment is currently pretty empty. We've just got the 2 weapons we've started out with and nothing else at the moment. But hopefully that will change over time. Anyway, we're going to make our first jump now. And here we see the beacon map. These are all, pretty much completely randomized. There will generally be many ways you can make your way through a particular sector. You can see here we have the option of jumping to one of 2 jump points. Neither of them is marked because we don't have the equipment upgrade that will let us scout out sectors before we jump to them, but that's okay. So we are just going to jump over here for now. And our first encounter, we find a damaged and dilapidated space station. It appears to be abandoned, but we detect faint life signatures on board. We are definitely going to board the station and look for survivors, because if there's anybody left, they might want to join our group. Unfortunately, all around us is the stench of death and decay, and one of our crew gets sick and dies. We get a little bit of scrap, but more importantly, we just lost a crew member, which is very bad at this stage in the game. So what I'm going to have to do is send my engine room guy over to the pilot bay, because you can't pilot your ship without somebody steering it. So we are down 1 crew member, but that's not the end of the world. Hopefully that will work out okay in the end. Going to make another jump here. And here we have a civilian ship under attack by space pirates. We could stay out of it, but why would we do that? We're gonna help out these civilians and beat up some pirates while we're at it. So here we are in combat. First thing I like to do at the start of most fights is to immediately pause and take a look at the enemy ship, see what kind of stuff they're carrying and what my strategy is going to be. I can see they're carrying some kind of heavy laser and some kind of beam weapon. So I'm going to use my standard tactic, which is to turn on auto fire to start with, and then fire a missile at their shields while I wait for my burst lasers to charge. It's generally a good idea to take out your enemy's shields first in most cases, because that way you can hit the rest of their systems without the shield taking any of the damage. Now that the missile hit, we can see that they've lost their shields, however their beam weapon has also taken out our medbay. That's not a big deal right now. So, with it paused again, I'm going to de-target my missiles, because I don't want to use more than one on these guys, since they're a limited resource. We only have 7 left. And I'm going to target their weapons with my burst laser, which fires immediately since it was charged up, and now they are sitting dead in the water. At this point, it's just a matter of sitting and waiting for my burst laser to take them out. And there we go, that was quick. None of the laser blasts missed, so we took them out on the second volley. We get some fuel, a missile, and some scrap, and we get pretty much the same reward again from the people that we saved. So great, we're doing very good on scrap. Going to send my weapons guy over to the medbay to repair things. One thing to mention is that if you look over here, all of your crew members have a set of skills, and as they do things, they will gain more skill in each of these things. Every time they fill up one of these bars, they level up that skill, and they become much better at it. Nobody's really learned anything yet, but they will pick up skills pretty quickly. So let's make another jump. Still nothing interesting on the map, so I'm actually going to jump back one and see if I can check out what's in this lower left-hand corner here. And here we have another enemy ship encounter. This one is a little trickier because they have a missile launcher, and missiles bypass shields, so taking that out is going to be a priority. They also have an attack drone, but I'm not as worried about that. Those generally aren't nearly as much of a threat as an enemy ship with a missile launcher. But we're going to use the same formula I used before. I am going to take out their shields with a missile of my own, and then focus on their weapons with my burst laser. As you can see, we didn't dodge that missile, but it only did 1 point of damage to our engines, which is not a big deal. Since the missile that we fired missed, I'm actually going to retarget my laser on their shields now that their weapons have been disabled. And they are getting pretty lucky with the evasion, so now I'm going to have to retarget on their weapons again, hopefully before they can get another missile off. Oh, no such luck. They got one more off. That also hits our engine. That's bad news because that drops our evasion rate down to 0, so I'm actually going to have to go ahead and use another missile on these guys, just to try and finish them off as quickly as possible. Especially because I can't seem to hit anything with my burst laser right now. And there we go. We took some damage in that fight, but nothing we can't repair. We got some fuel and some scrap for it, so that's good. And I'll send my weapons guy over to fix up the engines. You can't jump with completely destroyed engines, so it's important to get those fixed. And if I mouse over him right now, you can see he's gotten a little bit better at using the weapons bay, and he's also gaining a little bit of skill at repairing since I've had him fix a few things now. Repair skill generally takes the longest to level up, because if you're playing right, you won't actually have to repair too many things, but it's also a lot less critical than, say, weaponry or piloting or that sort of thing. Alright. Now that we've made a few jumps, we can see this warning red arc over here on the left. This is the rebel fleet that is searching for us. If we get caught at a beacon that is behind this red line, we will be forced to fight the rebel fleet instead of doing things that we would actually like to be doing. So it's very important to stay ahead of this as it slowly moves across the map. Occasionally, you may want to stay in a sector long enough that you do have to fight the rebel fleet, just to farm a few sectors and things like that. But for the most part, you want to stay ahead of this whenever possible. So we're going to jump away from it and go over here. And here we're being offered the opportunity to bribe these pirates instead of fighting them, but I don't know why you would ever do that. You always want to fight pirates. They're jerks, and we need the scrap. Especially since I would love to hire another crew member and maybe get some more weapons. You can can see there they took out my oxygen, which is a problem, and they're also powering up their FTL, which means if I don't either destroy their engines or blow up their ship outright, they will jump away, and I won't get anything for completing the fight. But we should be able to take them out before that happens. So, once my burst lasers are done taking them out, I'm going to send a guy to repair my oxygen as quickly as possible, because if that runs low, your crew suffocates and you die. We get some fuel, some missiles, some scrap, and more importantly, I get a chance to fix the oxygen before it gets too low. With that done, still nothing interesting. I'm really hoping to find a store sooner or later so I can buy some things, but since I haven't come across anything, I'm just going to keep jumping. Here we get some free scrap and a free anti-personnel drone, which is nice. That is a good kind of random event to come across. Free stuff is always nice. Still nothing new. I'm going to jump again. Oh, good. This is probably my least favorite kind of beacon to jump into. It's very close to a nearby sun, which means that every 30 seconds or so there will be a solar flare which will randomly start fires somewhere on your ship that you then have to put out somehow. It's a pretty huge hassle. It's rarely game-ending, but it's definitely dangerous. So, since this enemy scout drone doesn't have any shields, I don't want to waste any missiles on it, so I'm just going to use nothing but my burst laser to take it out. Just targeting his weapons straight away so he can stop doing damage to me as quickly as possible. Scout drones seem to have a higher evasion than ships with an actual crew, so they can be trickier to hit, but this early on in the game it's not so bad. And here we have our first solar flare, and of course it happens in our weapons bay. We are close enough to jumping that I'm actually not going to have my guy fight the fire because they take damage over time while fighting fires. So I'm going to have him go chill out in the med bay, and I'm going to open the airlocks on my ship and suck all of the air out of that room, because fires will go out in a vacuum. This is often the most effective way to put out fires on your ship because you don't risk any of your crew. And with that, I'm going to jump away. Still haven't found a store, but hopefully we'll find at least one before we have to leave this sector. Here we come across a rebel transport ship, and we're going to demand the surrender of their goods because we want those goods. The bad news is they immediately start charging their FTL drive, so they're going to try and jump away. Hopefully I'll be able to at least get a missile off before my weapon... Yeah, there we go. The fire is out. I'm going to shut my airlock so that I can get air back in there, and then I'll send my guy back in to fix up that mid-bay. Hopefully that missile will take out their engines and delay them jumping away. Yeah, there we go. We can see enemy FTL delayed. They're not going to be jumping anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to turn off my missile, so I'll have enough power to use my lasers, and I'll just target their shields. Since they're using a beam drone and a beam weapon, neither of which will actually penetrate shields, they can't actually hurt us. So they are not a threat to us whatsoever. It's just a matter of taking them out before they can jump away. With our weapons bay repaired, I could use another missile on them, but there's really no reason to. I'm going to take them out in 2 volleys. They got their FTL drive fixed, so I'm going to aim at their engines again, just to make sure they don't get away from us. And one more volley ought to be enough to take these guys out. Yeah, there we go. They are dead. We should get some scrap for that. Oh, and we got a weapon, an ion bomb. I'm never going to use this. I don't particularly like the ion bomb weapons, so I'm just going to sell that at the first store we come across. This next beacon, we found a distress signal, and we find a life form on the surface of a nearby moon. We're going to go down and investigate. We found a survivor. We're going to invite him to join our crew. This is great, because it means we get another crew member, which we desperately need. Also, he's a rock, which is excellent. Rocks have 150 hit points instead of the standard 100 that humans and other species have, and they are completely immune to fire, so they're great for putting out fires on enemy on your ship. Their only downside is that, as you can see, they move very slowly, but that's usually not too much of an issue. Just turned on my medbay there for a second to heal up my weapons bay guy, And now I'm going to jump away. Wow, I did not find a single store in this map. That almost never happens to me. But that's no big deal. We have a ton of scrap for the next sector. Here we are given the opportunity to hire a mercenary to either delay the rebels, scout the sector, or fight the ship, or we could just let him go. We don't need him to delay the rebels, because I've explored as much of this sector as I want to. We don't need him to scout it, because I'm almost done here anyway, so we're just going to fight him, because why not? I need the scrap, and mercenaries are jerks. He's offering to surrender. He's offering us some fuel, some drone parts, and some scrap if we let him live, and I'm feeling generous, so I'll say yes, because, why not? And with that, we can see that the rebel fleet is rapidly catching up to us, and we don't want them to get to the exit point before we do, so I'm going to jump down there now. And here we have the long-range beacon. And, oh, excellent, we randomly get some scrap and a hull smasher laser. Hull lasers are pretty good. They're not my favorite weapon, but it's definitely an improvement on the ion bomb that we got for free, so I may end up actually using that, depending on what other things we find. So now we're going to leave that sector, and here we have the overall sector map. You can see there are various pathways you can take. Green sectors are friendly sectors. You'll encounter fewer negative events and hostile encounters there. Red sectors are hostile, which means you'll encounter more negative events and more enemy encounters. And purple sectors are nebulas, which we will probably see at some point. I'll see if I can fly through one and show it off. We're given the option of traveling to an Engi-controlled sector on both choices, so I'm just going to take the top one, because why not? Here we are in Sector 2. Let's take a look at the map. Still no stores visible, but we have a distress beacon. So I'm going to go check that out first. There's a dead ship in an asteroid field that is giving off a distress signal. We're going to check it out and see what happens. Oh, interesting. We find a strange crystalline stasis pod that catches our eye. Let's grab that. Let's see what that's about. We can't open it, but maybe somebody else will know how. This is one of the optional quests to unlock other ships, and it's probably the hardest one to do, and I've never done it, so I'm going to take a chance and see if I can find it. In this next jump node, we find a Mantis ship attacking some civilians. Mantis are horrible jerks, so of course we're going to fight these dudes. And once again, standard tactic applies. Hit their shields with a missile, and then take out their weapons with our laser. We're getting a warning that we've lost a quarter of our hull, but I don't generally worry about that until it gets down into the red. Most regular ships are not a huge threat, unless you end up massively underprepared. We got some scrap, some drone parts, and some missiles, but more importantly, we got a free augment, the reverse ion field. We'll take a look at that in a second. Still no source. Alright. Well, let's keep looking. Oh, and another sun. Wonderful. And in this case, we're fighting a Zoltan ship, and they have this special shield that is unlike the regular shields that we have. This green shield has a life bar instead of just a blue circle, and it will absorb all attacks, missiles, teleporting bombs, lasers, beams, everything. It'll also block boarding parties, but the nice thing about it is once you've taken it out, it doesn't regenerate like enemy shields. So it can be a pain to deal with, but it's usually not a game breaker. I don't want to waste missiles just trying to get through that shield, so I'm just going to use my burst lasers on it until it's gone. You can see it takes several hits, and we're about to get some fire, but thankfully, when I pause the game, we can see that it's in an empty room, which is no big deal, and now I have a rock crew member, which means I can send him in to put out the fire without having to worry about him taking damage. Now that we've gotten through that shield, I'm going to launch a missile at their shield room and retarget my weapons at their weapons bay. There we go. Remember to detarget my missiles, because I don't want to use more than one unless I absolutely have to. And now they're trying to power up their FTL and escape. I don't think they're going to get away in time, so I'm not worried about that. And once again, we get a fire in our weapons bay. I'm going to turn off my missiles since I'm not going to be using them. And hopefully this will be enough. Yes, there we go. They've been taken out. We get some scrap, some fuel, some missiles, and more importantly, we have time to jump away. Alright, we finally found a store. This is very good news, because we have damage to repair and equipment to sell, and hopefully some upgrades to buy. So, let's check it out. Alright, excellent. We've got a lot of good stuff here. First thing I'm going to do is spend some scrap to fix my hull up. Second thing I'm going to do is sell off some of the stuff I don't plan on using. I'm not going to use that anti-personnel drone. I'm not going to use the ion bomb. I'll keep the reverse ion field from now. It's okay. It has a 20% chance to negate ion damage. Ion damage basically stuns your systems, like your shields and your weapons, but it doesn't actually destroy them or do damage to your hull. I don't generally find it to be a huge threat, so I never buy the ion field outright. It's nice to get for free, but it's not a priority. Going back to the buy menu, we see that there are a couple crew members that we can hire, which is good because we need more of those. And we've got a number of ship upgrades here. All three of them, in fact, are available. So, first thing I'm going to do, because we have a ton of scrap, 327 scrap is like a huge amount, so I'm going to hire both crew members. And I'm going to buy cloaking, because cloaking is hands down the most important ship upgrade you can buy. And you will see why when I get a chance to use it. You can see now, down here, we have a new little icon that we can click on, and we have a new piece of equipment in a previously empty room. The next thing I'm going to do is I have 87 scrap left, so I'm going to upgrade my shields. Upgrades get more expensive the further up you go, so the first one costs 20 scrap, the second bar of shields costs 30, so that's 50 total. I'm also going to buy one more unit of power for a reactor to help power those new shields. So you can see here we have 2 more shield bars, which will give us 1 more full level of shield. But we've only got 1 thing of power down here, so I'm actually going to depower our engine partially. It's still working, just not as much, and use that blip of power to make our shields better. So this is great. Now we can take 2 laser hits without it penetrating our shield, which is very good news. You also notice that I don't actually have enough energy to power all my weapons right now. That would be a problem, but the reactor upgrades are very cheap early on, so I'm actually just going to jump down here, and hopefully I'll get some more scrap and I can buy some more reactor upgrades soon. Here we go, another empty space station. Let's see what's on it. We're given the option of saving an Engi, grabbing a drone schematic, or just getting out of there and save ourselves. We're good guys, so let's try and save that Engi. Alright. We saved him, which means he offers to join our crew, so we now have several different crew members. You can have a maximum of 8, and we're currently at 6, so we're looking pretty good. One thing I'm going to do is, I had the Rock crew member running my engine room for a little while, but I'm actually going to use a human for that, because with the Rock's high health and immunity to fire, he's much better off in a support role, either fighting off enemy borders or putting out fires or that sort of thing. This Engi will keep around because they repair things 50% faster than other races. They don't do as well as combat, they only do 50% the damage, but when it comes to repairing stuff, there's nothing better than having a couple Engi on board. And with that, actually before I make a jump, I want to go back to the ship menu and buy another blip of power, because now I can turn my missile launcher back on. And we'll make another jump. We arrive at a Zoltan research facility. They are researching various things, and they want us to undergo a few scans, but because we have that damaged stasis pod, we have a third blue option. Blue options are generally specific things that only come up if you have the right crew members or equipment or weaponry, that sort of thing, so they're all conditional, but they're also generally more positive than your standard white outcomes, which can either be good or bad. So let's see if they can fix that stasis pod. It looks like they can, and out of it comes a strange crystal man. And he wants us to go find his secret homeworld. So now we've got another crew member, this crystal guy, who is sort of like a rock man, not completely fire immune, but he has a special ability called Lockdown, which we may or may not see if I remember to use it. Now, depending on what other sectors we run across, we may actually be able to complete the quest for this guy. It's very difficult because it depends entirely on what sectors you get on your map, which is randomized, and what order you get them in, which is also randomized. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky. Jump to another sector. And this is just an empty sector. There's some flavor text, but nothing actually happens, so I'm just going to keep jumping. And here we have another fight. Now, because I have the cloaking upgrade, we have the option of cloaking and staying hidden, but that's cowardly. I'm actually going to attack this guy, because that way I can show off cloaking's other great ability. Remember how I said missiles penetrate shields automatically? Well, they still do, but cloaking drastically increases your evasion, which means missiles are much more likely to miss you. It's a great way to just instantly dodge really any attack, but missiles especially. It's one of the best ways of dealing with them. And with that, we took them out and took no damage. So that is a good trade-off. I am going to buy another brick of power because I want to be able to fully power my engines and use my med bay. And here we see another store up here. So what I'm actually going to do is jump over to this left-hand node first, and then jump down. You do generally want to maximize your paths through the map to visit as many nodes as you can before the rebel fleet catches up, because that way you get the most stuff. Here we found a refueling station that's offering us a slight discount on fuel. We're going to buy all of the fuel they have, because I generally like to keep at least 15 fuel units in my tank, preferably 20, at least until the end of the game. And let's check out that store now. I don't actually have anything I want to buy or sell, so there's nothing I can really do here. I was just curious and I wanted to see what they had. Alright. Let's see if I can get to the exit beacon before the rebel fleet. This is going to be a tight one. And we stumble across a forward scout. Same deal as before. They are trying to jump away. We're trying to take them out before they can do so. So I'm going to aim a missile at their engine room, and then a burst laser at their shields. And now with their engine room taken out of commission and their shields destroyed, I must have started a fire in there with my lasers, I can just aim at their weapons, and hopefully take them out before they can get their engines repaired. And there we go. That was a piece of cake. Got some scrap, and let's see. Oh, that's right on the line, so let's see what happens. Alright, we made it. Like, that node point can be right on the red line, and you'll still make it sometimes. So here we have a rebel assault ship that's not currently active. We're going to try and download it. That wakes it up, so it's going to attack us, but whatever. It's free scrap once we inevitably blow it up. And as you can see, because I've been pretty careful with rationing my missiles, and we've gotten pretty lucky with our drops from enemies and such, I'm still doing alright as far as missile supply goes. And with that taken out, we get some fuel, some drone parts, some scrap, and I am ready to jump out of here. And with that, I will also be ending this first segment of the playthrough, so I will see you again soon.